Hey everybody, it's Stacey Duffy here, your Denver Metro real estate resource, and I'm looking at a flip house, potential flip house or rehab or BRRRR or a rental or something like that. I had a listing appointment with a past client that's down the street, and when I was looking at the comps on their house yesterday, I saw this one that had just gotten listed, and I thought, I'm looking to pick up a rental. So why don't I just swing by and take a look at them right down the street? It's also good to know that if someone were to come in here, flip it, and then sell it, what this could potentially sell for, because then that's now a comp for my client's house down the street. So I'm just going to walk through and point out a few things that I see when I'm trying to evaluate if a house is a good investment, and especially because it's very few in a strong seller's market. There's very, very few opportunities for investors, for flippers. There's very little margin a lot of the time, unless they pick something up, because there's not foreclosures that are, foreclosures are pretty rare. Short sales are really rare. And there's so many investors looking for those opportunities that they get bid up to where there's not much margin on it. It doesn't make much sense to do. So I'll just let you know, because I'll do this from time to time when I'm in the area. I'm going to stop and take a look at a house like, oh, okay, there's a house down the street that looks like it needs work and just got listed. Let me go look at it and see if the price is crazy or if the condition of the house is really bad, because those don't sit around very long. So this one just came on. I realized they haven't reviewed offers yet, and that's probably why it's not gone, because I think it'll go. But here are some of the things that I'm looking for when I'm going through a house, either with an investor client or for myself, when I'm looking for something that needs work and if it's a good fit. Alrighty, so first thing, walking in the front door, and I'll probably do an outside real quick on the way out if I have time, but I noticed there were okay, it's got a little bit of drainage issues, but it's a corner lot, really large yard, and I looked up the history on this, and it's actually been owned by the same person since 1977, which is a really long time. So I want to see, that usually says that, hey, it's dated and it's worn, but it's probably been kept up. And that's the big question, is, has it been kept up? So the first thing here in the living room, I'm going to do some swirlies. And I'm sorry, I brought the gimbal in. So at least it's swirly instead of shaky, is we have a giant window off the, living room out to the corner entrance. And this thing is newer. So this has been very, very recently replaced, which is what I'm going to look at. Anytime you have a large window that's expensive, I always want to know if that's been done, because windows are not a high resale item. So a lot of times you have to do it because it's an expectation, or it's not functional, or you don't want a 1950s window in a flip where everything else is brand new, but you don't get a lot of resale value on the end. So new mechanicals, new window, new concrete, all those types of things I'm going to look for, because that's money somebody else spent that I don't have to, because I'm not going to get a lot of return on that. All right. So another thing I'm looking at when I'm first walking in is, okay, yes, the carpet is pretty well trashed and is overly worn, and the wallpaper is peeling and all that kind of stuff, and there's popcorn on the ceilings, but I don't get a smoke smell. And that's really what I expected walking in, was a smoker's house, and there's a lot of cost and energy and effort associated to that, and I'm not picking up that at all, or cat smell or anything like that. So getting smells out is always really tough. And sure, yeah, I mean, carpet, flooring, paint, the wallpaper kind of sucks because that's a little bit of an ordeal to replace, but generally it's not too bad off the first bat. I think it's pretty good. All right, so another thing, just walking into the kitchen, one, I don't know with the gimbal how to show you all this. There's carpet in a kitchen. Not cool. And it's like a looped carpet, so very commercial, very industrial. A lot of people aren't going to like that and are going to have different expectations. So, but overall, it looks like, and this house is, I'll have to go back and look at the sheet. I didn't print one out since I was in a rush this morning, but I want to say it's like an early 60s build. And they've done the kitchen. So this is actually a relatively large kitchen for the age. It's a little bit unusual with this kind of bank of cabinets over here to the hallway that's recessed a little bit. Kind of funky. We got some cutouts and some pillars, and okay, if the pillars aren't going to be structural, so if I wanted to take those out, I could. And maybe a corner one I'd have to leave for a post, but that's definitely more of a dated thing. But these kitchen cabinets, the big thing is, look at the shape of the door. I don't have fleur-de-lis. I don't have louvers throughout. They're just they're actually a solid wood door. They're not like an MDF that's got a vinyl wrap on it, which are some really cheap flip cabinets that I see a lot of the time that I don't like. Anytime you've got these like roll away appliance bays, these are very, very functional and features that a lot of people like. And I guess they had their toaster oven or something a little bit close to the wallpaper there. They're really practical features. So if possible, I would paint these. The only downside is painting, anytime you paint these louver doors, because of how they slide, it's a little tough. I'm not a cabinet painter, but I bet my guys could figure that out. But we've got Lazy Susans in the corner. We've got those other things. So that tells me that when people spent money on the house, they spent money for nice things, which means they usually don't cheap out. So it's dated, but it's not going to be cheaper quality materials is what I like. And the rest of it's just, yeah, it's cosmetic. It's carpet, it's wallpaper, it's a little funky, but I got a newer kitchen, guys. It's not like 50 years old and hodgepodge and crazy. It just needs some updating. All right, I'm over in the dining room / office area, just opposite the kitchen, and I got another newer window. That's a win. And look at that outside. Oh, I have a newer fence. All right, let me go around the corner. Yeah, it looks like I have to go back and see where the fence stops and if that's the neighbor's fence or this fence, but I'm gonna guess it's this fence. I'll go out and make sure later. Okay, laundry room, kind of a bummer in here. It's a little weird setup. We got a stackable, we have closets, a huge storage closet. I mean, that's really cool to have. That is opposite the washer dryer. And then I've got tankless water heater. That's cool. People that are cheap don't put that in. So that's a nice perk because now I'm not having to spend the money on a water heater. And backyard. Oh, we're still putting in fence because they're doing the concrete pad. Okay, so we got some fencing. All right, so I have an itty bitty AC unit. It's probably one of the smallest AC unit condensers I've ever seen, even for a condo. It's not that old though, so it makes me think, okay, I've got a ranch home with a finished basement. I don't need to cool the basement. So if that's functional and it works, I would probably leave that for my tenants until it comes time to upgrade it. All right, another thing I'm always going to check is electrical panel. 150 amp. I got a cup and open slots down in the panel box, which is nice. I don't have extra breakers, but I have extra slot for breakers, which is cool. And they even have a hot tub here, and I still have extra slots, which is nice. And this has been upgraded, so it's not an original panel, which is nice because usually when they upgrade it, they're also going to upgrade the power lines. Although an inspector would note these power lines is a little low, they'll usually put an extension that's going to put it a few feet above the roof line, just so it's not within reach from a safety perspective. Yeah, so that fence line, now that I'm on the other side of the house, it's not perfect, but it looks like they power washed it, possibly did a stain on it, so it's not that new, but it's not something's going to be falling down too soon. And since I have the same fence over there as I have here, that's probably this owner's fence, so my guess is between this owner, they either work together to replace that fence, since they're looks like adding a garage or some other additions. All right, so walking into the hallway, I've got some squeaky floors. I don't know if y'all can hear that. So that's something that, hey, I'm pulling up carpet to redo flooring anyway, so that's a good time to resecure my floorboards before I put down new flooring. And that's another thing that if you are buying a flip house and they haven't done that, like you've got brand new floors, but you've got squeaky floors everywhere. So let's say they put down some LVP or some carpet or something and it's brand new, but the floors still squeak. That just shows that they didn't take the time to secure those floorboards. Especially if it's throughout the entire house. And that to me just shows, hey, if you didn't take the time here, well, where else did you cut the corners? But honestly, for the age of the home and the layout of the home, that's something I would expect. And it's something that's, fixable because it's not outside of the process of replacing the flooring anyway. Thing here in the hallway is they've got the accessibility bar on the side, stability bar. So that just tells me, yeah, someone lived here a very, very long time. They replaced the floor tile in this bathroom. And when they did, they went up the walls and around. I was a little curious about this in the photos because I saw the darkness around the base. And guys, I see this so much. I even bought a house that had this issue. So when they're doing this tile, they grout it to the tub and they never caulk it. Well, grout is porous, okay? So that's the thing, is when you're dealing right there with that tile to tub connection, that needs to be caulked. And if you don't, then that's where you can get moisture in your walls. So that would be my concern on this, is to run the shower for a while during an inspection and then have a moisture meter back behind this tile. Sometimes they can read through tile, sometimes they can't. It depends on the type of material. But to see, and so the other thing is does this wall squish? No, it's pretty solid. So if it's super soft and spongy, that's where I worry, because that wall has lost its structural integrity because it's had so much water seeping up it that I might have to take out that entire tile wall. But it seems like that's pretty solid, which is what I would, better than I expected. The rest of the bathroom's okay. Like, okay, yeah, sure, it's got a rusted vent because it's a metal vent in a bathroom. So put a new vent on, put an extra coat of clear, spray clear on it. And they actually scraped the popcorn in here, which makes sense. I know you can't see the ceiling. Sorry guys, I don't use a gimbal a lot, so I'm not used to having to deal with the directional piece. But overall not bad for a main floor full bath. All right, so here's a goodie. I've got a closet at the end of the hallway. It's a hollow door that's been painted on the outside. Meh, who cares? That's a pretty typical door for the inside, or for the age of the home. But kind of a weird thing to have a deadbolt on the inside of the closet door. All right, not going there. Flooring. Haha, I've got original hardwood floors. So that's very, very likely what is going to be under all of my carpet. So that's a perk. All right, secondary bedroom on the main floor. So guest bedroom. They scraped the popcorn in here, so that's one less room to do. If that's something we even wanted to do. Slider closet, pretty basic, but what I love, new window, AKA less money out of my pocket. All right, first impressions on the master suite. All right, so my texture is really, really weird. And the paint is really, really weird. So my concern is that they had this wallpapered, they pulled it, they didn't really do a great job retexturing it, or they textured over the wallpaper. I don't see any remnants of the wallpaper. Usually I get some indication of that. I think they had wallpaper and then they pulled it, textured it, and did a not so great job. Obviously they were working on some paint color samples and trying to figure out what they wanted to do. I got some blinds that are really easy to take down. So that would be my concern is here is, okay, once you get a single color all the way along the walls and it's a flat color, what imperfections are going to show on the texture, because that's really when you're going to see them. Flat paint will hide some of that, which you can do when you're not in a bathroom or a wet area. Here's my closet. Whoa, quite the closet system. And then, yet again, my floors. Downside of carpet on a hardwood floor is you've got tack strip. So, and lots of other small things, it looks like rodent poop. Yay. Rodent or bug poop. So, something to be aware of there, but I don't have any nasty smell, so I'm not worried about it being really dirty. Just, they probably had some mice in here or lots of bugs or something. Okay, so for the floors, I mean, that's the nice part about like, oh, you rip up carpet, you got hardwood floors. Yeah, that's cool, but you got tack strip all the way around those floors. So patching that and then doing the cost and the everything of refinishing, if you're going to flip a house and sell it higher end, that probably makes sense to do. From a cost and maybe protecting those floors, I don't know, maybe I'd want to just lay down some floating LVP, and that way it protects the floors, but it also looks really nice. It kind of depends on cost there, so different people would do it different ways. All right, so ensuite master bath, which is really nice to have in this part of town. 3/4 bath, so actually not a bad size vanity, and higher ceilings, which are cool. Oh, look, new window here anyway. I think they did the whole house then. I've got a vinyl floor, fine, no big deal. Wallpaper, kind of sucks. Tiny shower. So if you're gonna flip this, somebody would probably rip out the shower and redo it as far as the layout of the bathroom a little bit between the size of the sink and the shower. It's kind of weird to walk in and have your shower first and then your sink. Most people are kind of used to the opposite. But I'm not a flipper, or at least not at this point in time. So I would be looking more about, okay, what makes sense for cosmetics to rent it. It's really, really good shape, so I'm a little bit on the fence, but cost-wise, it might not make sense for me right now. We're not there yet. So, but for those that are interested, it's like, okay, if you're going to be flipping, you might have to change layout of bathroom, and then we've got our concrete here down below. So moving showers gets a little bit more expensive when they're built in with concrete and everything else. All right, let's see what we have going into the basement. Okay. Yeah, that's 60s. What do you think of that? You get some wind. Oh, I don't really have a lot of lights. All right. So one thing I noticed off the bat, guys, 8x8 vinyl tiles. This is very, very common for 50s and mid 60s, even into mid 70s homes. Those are probably going to be asbestos line adhesive tiles. So if you're doing a house that has those, don't rip them up. Go over the top. Okay. And hopefully you don't plan on doing refinished concrete or anything like that, because that's when we have an issue with the asbestos. Okay, so something else I see walking in here is the AC lines. So they actually had the basement finished back in the 60s based on the texture of the ceiling, which is kind of cool and retro and everything else. And we have original basement windows, which is kind of a bummer, but it's the basement, so it's not as big of a deal. But we've got our AC lines that they just ran through there. So normally, you know, they added AC later, you would have a soffit box or something that you would run them in. But because this was already finished, that's what they decided to do. And you know what? I get it. If that were if their house, they can do what they want. So now we have the awesome super retro bar. I'd probably take that out. That's a little much for me, guys. And the walls are cork. Like legit cork. So that's a fun one too. But not all the walls, luckily. So we got wallpaper on the top half, and then we've got paneling on the bottom half. As far as a cheap update, since I'm just looking from a renting it out perspective, then I can paint the bottom half and paint the top half as well, and it will actually look pretty nice. I can get away with quite a bit there. Another thing I do look for is I'm looking up. So I've got new plumbing, and I've got copper, which makes sense. Copper I would have had anyway, but I've got some new plumbing. So let's see what they did in our, well, first of all, look down. This is a little much. So there's our bar area. Ooh, I'll get to drains. Actually, let's go ahead and do drains now. So one thing I'm looking for is galvanized drain lines. So in a 50s and even in a 60s house, are these galvanized or stainless? They might have been, those almost look stainless. That's a little weird, guys. So maybe someone just kind of did a DIY on that. But if they're original, they would be galvanized, and those tend to rest from the inside out. So on a drain, it doesn't worry me quite as much because it's not under pressure. So when it fails, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a drip or I'm going to have a leak or something like that, but it's not under pressure like an incoming line that's going to blow and throw water everywhere. So something that, you know, in this age of home, most of those have been done, but there are still a few, especially in low use areas, that I run into those from time to time. So looking up from that exact same spot, here's what I see. So there's my connection where they replaced part of the galvanized drain lines. And then the other side of the section that they replaced, and they replaced some of that going into the, I guess it'd be kitchen upstairs. No, I'm on this side. I'm on a dining room. It's kind of weird. I have to look and see where that goes upstairs. But so they've done some of the plumbing, but not all. I don't love that. I kind of wish it was done because it's not something I want to have to deal with. And then we've got the original. Oh, sorry. I thought my gimbal was turning. Original kind of drain lines and cast iron drains and everything that are pretty hefty. Okay, so I got some mirrors. Y'all get to see me a bit. Another 8x8 tile in the bathroom. So it's got a half bath downstairs in the bathroom. So we're 2.5 because we've got 2 upstairs and 1 down here. And dated the original basement window. A little bit of rust in the window, but it's a concrete well. So a lot of these were concrete originally as well. So that tells me I've got a drainage issue, potentially got a drainage issue on the front. And here's my confirmation on that. I've got a little bit of, let me get the camera in a good spot. I've got a little bit of waving here in the corners, which means I probably had some sagging and some water damage here. Yeah, and they've got a little patch in here. So they had a water issue here at some point. Which isn't unusual if you don't have the grading worked out properly. I was kind of surprised looking up front. I'm like, yeah, they got a drainage problem. Not the end of the world as long as it's taken care of and done properly. This is kind of a weird one. That's a hole into something else that goes outside. So I don't know what that is. Usually I don't see holes into that stuff unless that was where they had a vent fan, but you don't need a vent fan because there's no shower. So even though some people put a vent fan in the bathroom because they think it's for smell, and yeah, people use it for that, but ideally the whole point of a vent fan in a bathroom typically is for humidity and to get the humidity out of the bathroom. So that one's a little interesting. And even if you put that in, you're not going to hit the pipe just right. And I don't know if that's fresh air combustion for, let's see, we'll probably have, not a boiler, but we'll have a gas furnace. I don't know. We'll look around and we'll see what we see. Okay, so I saw this goodie on the pictures and I couldn't quite figure out what it was because all I could see in the picture was that. So this is our washer dryer spot at the bottom of the stairs. So, which makes more sense on why you had a small stackable upstairs between just off of the kitchen going out to the backyard. Because normally you wouldn't have had a washer dryer there, but they put it up there probably because of limited access and someone that couldn't go up and down the stairs, so they moved the laundry. So this would have been where they had the laundry prior to. And then you've got your exhaust that goes, exhaust vent for the dryer that goes up and somewhere, probably in a mechanical room and then up and outside. So, and water hookups and electrical. But because they didn't use it and they wanted a humidifier on the house, they kind of just stuck that on the side. I mean, it makes it easy to get to this as long as you don't have a washer dryer here, but it's probably not the prettiest thing to look at. And then they did the drain from that into the washer drain. So, I mean, not the end of the world, probably not my choice, but it functionally doesn't scare me. Okay, so the weird kind of creepy room in the back of the basement. AKA the non-conforming bedroom. So when people talk about bedrooms and they say, oh, there's a non-conforming bedroom in the basement, especially here in Colorado, 9 times out of 10, this guy's why. So non-conforming bedrooms don't have, here in Colorado, they have to have egress as far as safety, escape to get outside in case of a fire or other emergency, and they have to have a closet. We have a closet, we have no egress. But in this age of home, having non-conforming bedrooms in the basement is pretty standard, so a lot of times you'll see these listed anyway. And they'll include that bedroom in the total bedroom count of the house, even though it's not a legal conforming bedroom. Whoa, I got some red light going on here with paneling. So we got a little desk built in, and I'll flip y'all around so you can kind of see the room. So we've got a built-in desk area. It's a really long, narrow room. It's all paneling. I've got a drop acoustic ceiling. They've got some holes cut in there for plumbing access, so they've redone some plumbing. Here's the other thing I like to look at when people are doing plumbing work, right? So this is our main coming in from the street, and then our main coming in is still going to be a galvanized line. So from here to the street, at some point that line's probably going to have to get replaced, and that's going to be expensive. But unfortunately, given the age of the home and where it is, it kind of doesn't surprise me it hasn't been done yet. But it looks like coming in from there, they've done it, and then I've got copper at this point going out. So I'm not really sure which one's which. I'm gonna guess this is sprinkler line going up and out because this is shut off, and then the other one is the main coming into the house, which is on. But when I'm looking at plumbing, these are shark bites, aka push to connects. Not my top choice for plumbing. They are very functional, they are approved for use, and at least I've got copper in here, and I've got brass fixtures. Old school thought is copper and sweating copper is the only way to go and the only way to do it right. Realistically, okay, that's a total pain in the ass to do. It's really expensive. You've got to cut bigger holes because you got to have fire safety as far as, you don't want to torch those surrounding materials. And a lot of times people are going to use PEX. So in this point, is considering it's a main coming in off the street, it's going to have a lot of pressure and I want to have a lot of volume through there. I'm happy they didn't use PEX. I'm not opposed to PEX. I just think it has different applications, and I'm not a plumber, so I'm probably not qualified to make those distinctions as far as where it should or shouldn't be used. But anyway, so it's like, okay, could be worse, could be better. But at least they've done some of the plumbing work. I think part of the hard part in this house, based on what I've seen, is what have they done, what haven't they done, and are you ripping out walls to find out? All right, so looking directly up from that, what am I hearing? Furnace? Yeah, I'm in a vacant house, so when you hear noises, it's kind of creepy. So I've got, I'm going to guess that's a fresh air combustion or exhaust coming from the HVAC system. We'll go in there in a minute. I get geeked out in there. And then I'm looking at my subfloor for upstairs because I've got very likely I've got the wood flooring, the small, like 1.5 or 2 inch flooring panels, and then this is my subfloor. I don't have OSB because it's an older house. I'm going to have actually plank floors. So that's what I like to see, and then, I'm underneath the front door area, so I don't expect any plumbing issues. But it's nice to know what kind of flooring's in there, so when I'm resecuring flooring to prevent those squeaks that I mentioned before, that I at least know kind of what I would be looking at going into that. So, all right, so here's the closet. We've got a cedar lined closet, kind of 2 sections, nothing major here. I've got some ungrounded electrical and this little light, but I think that's and ungrounded electrical for this age of home is going to be pretty standard anyway. That's what I would fully expect. So nothing weird here. So one thing I haven't really talked about is the giant elephant in the room. Literally. So as cool as this thing is, I don't know what the hell I would try to figure out to do with it. It's definitely, so in my purpose, I'm thinking from a rental, right? Okay, well that's risk, it's sharp, people have kids, this is going to want to be their play area. So it's something that I would probably see if I can remove and cap. If you're doing it for resale, it totally depends on the vibe you're going for. It looks like they've got just a heater in here. So they at least, stuck that in there as something to use versus having the fire. yeah, it's a little weird for me. I've seen those in lots of houses, but I don't think I've ever seen one in the middle of a basement floor. All right, so here I'm walking into mechanical and other creepy room in the back of the basement. Okay. Let's see what we got, guys. You can learn with me together. So, all right, understairs, lots of spiders. Yeah, fun stuff. Kind of welcome to my life here. I'm looking up. I always look up in here because I want to see what plumbing I've got. So there, I've got some, it's either, that might be polybutylene. No, it's PEX. Okay, so I've got some large PEX lines. I've got my AC lines. I've got copper. I've got my gas line that's newer. So they had some gas work done probably when they, trying to think of what out the back was plumbed. Oh, tankless. That's right, because we got our tankless water heater out the back and they plumbed the gas from over here because this is where your mechanical room was for your tankless water heater. So that's where that got plumbed over. In case for your retro purposes, you want an old school heater. Looks like we got another one of those hanging out, which is kind of neat. And then, let's see. So that's going to be my exhaust vent from my fuel burning appliance. It's going to go up and hopefully straight up. I've got another capped off exhaust over there. That might have been from tankless. And then, okay, this one is my washer dryer line going up and out. Which, okay, so there's a good example. Let's talk about that. Realistically, guys, that washer dryer is here. You are going around a corner, up 4 feet, across, uphill nonetheless. Yeah, you're going to have a whole lot of crap as far as if you put your washer dryer downstairs, you're going to have a whole lot of stuff getting collected down here. Those really should have booster fans when you're going that long. Another thing is plumbing. So I've got random plumbing pipe here from something that was hooked up that is no longer hooked up. I've got more plumbing kind of tacked in here. So it looks like a lot of the drain lines have been done, at least what's exposed, which is okay. Nothing there looks too shady. So that's kind of nice. All right, how many spiders do I want to go through? Well, someone else caught their hair on this going through. I could see myself doing that. Okay, so let's go check out our mechanicals here, our furnace. Carrier furnace, not that old, probably done when the AC was done. For furnaces, guys, I go off the color because a lot of times these don't have a date plate on them. Your water heaters will. That'll have a manufacturer date, but a lot of times your furnaces won't. So I'm going to go off the color of the furnace. I'm going to guess this was done probably in the last 10 years, maybe 15 or less. I've got gas line. I've got some AC line. I've got old school trouble light. So I've got some wiring here, which tells me that, okay, they did the panel, but they didn't do the wiring inside of the house as far as like putting in grounded electrical, which is fine. I wouldn't expect them to do that, honestly. And when they did put stuff in, they put in grounded outlets, which is cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean they rewired the entire house because I still have a lot of the old wiring coming into that. So that's fine as long as I know what I'm working with there, which is what I would expect for the age of the home. Okay, so tiny creepy room in the corner. Here's what we're looking for. So first of all, we have a floor drain that is full. That's not good. That would make me be scared to run water in this house because I don't know if it's just that's backed up or the main. And then we have our little handy dandy old school snake on the floor that they've been trying to clear that drain with. So I don't know if it's just this drain or everything in the house, but that's pretty easy to tell by doing some, I would run some water. Well, I wouldn't run some water because I'd be worried about overflowing stuff, but other people probably would and they wouldn't care because it's not their house. The other thing that shows is, okay, this is flooded before, at least in this room, because we've got our 2x4s with some nasty water damage on there. So not the end of the world. It's just something to know that, hey, there was an issue and it probably hasn't been fixed yet. Here I've got a little bit of a tear in the wall, but guys, here's why I don't worry about it. I don't have a lot of unfinished basement here to look at. I love unfinished basement. Here's why, because I can see all of those mechanicals. I can see wall, I can see structure, I can see concrete, I can see all kinds of stuff. So I really know what I'm getting, right? When the full basement is finished, especially in a house this age where you're talking 1960s and maybe some drainage issues on the front wall or something like that, I'm gonna look for other indications, and a lot of it's gonna be these drywall splits. And here's why I don't really worry about this one, because one, it's down the center. Normally when I have a lot of shifting and settling, it's gonna start in your corners, which some of the corner, you know, off the windows and your high stress points, okay, that makes sense. But when it gets excessive or it's going through like the middle of a wall all the way down a wall or something like that, that's where I'd be really worried. I've seen some vertical splits that here that doesn't happen as often. In other states with different soil conditions it happens more. But here I don't even worry about this one because first of all, it's almost straight up and down and it's in the middle of the window, which means that's just the drywall seam, which I can definitely see down here. So they just didn't do a great job of that. It looks like they might have had some water coming in this window at the back at some point, which is why that probably popped and split, but not as worried about it. So right next to that is this little raceway that I've got some stuff back in there. And I don't know if you can really see because it's probably pretty dark. There we go. But what I'm looking at is drains. So it looks like that's the galvanized drains with some clean out access. So that kind of tells me where the plumbing status of the house probably is. And all right, so I came out of the basement, I'm back upstairs, and then wanted to check garage real quick with y'all, so I just walked out here. So this is a garage on the end of the house, has a door directly through, just right behind the front door, which is a little unusual. So my guess is maybe they added it later. But anyway, oversized garage, which is really, really nice. That's one nice thing about this part of town. Yeah, here's here you can tell they definitely added it later because we have a basement window that goes to the garage. So they poured this after, which is not unusual for this part of town. A lot of people like it because of the detached garages, no HOA, that kind of stuff, that you can have a little bit more shop space outside. But overall, not too bad here. It's going to be cold. It's going to be on the end of the house. They put some insulation. Well, actually, that's just the back siding of the exterior here. So we don't have a lot of insulation, which is why it's a little chilly. It's not even that cold outside today. It's just breezy. But overall, hey, I've got a couple old school garage door openers. They work. Single doors kind of suck. They're a little bit narrow, but I don't see a whole lot. I see a little bit of shifting in this garage floor because that's what I'm going to look at as walls and floor. And I think next door they have a motorcycle. So they poured part of this, and this is either heaved significantly since it's poured. Well, that hasn't heaved. This is dropped. Because you can see the original line of where that was poured. So this has dropped quite a bit. We've had some settling here. The settling doesn't bother me on a garage floor, right? Because, okay, it's not structural. It kind of sucks when you pull your car in and you have a bunch of snow, because what you don't want is all of that moisture running up to that front section and that front wall of the house, and the moisture sitting there. So not perfect, not the end of the world. But definitely something just to be aware of. If you wanted, you could possibly have someone come in and mud jack. I haven't done a lot of mud jacking, so I can't really speak to that. But having the oversized 2-car garage is definitely a perk. So overall, my thoughts on this house in general, it's been really well cared for. And the exterior drainage is probably that, and the remaining galvanized plumbing. So I definitely want to go through the house and know what still has galvanized lines. I didn't see any lead drain lines. So what still has galvanized versus what's been replaced with copper, because that's going to be a lot of the expense. I love that the windows are done. HVAC is definitely very functional. The rest of it is cosmetic, but I think that plumbing is the biggest concern for me. So there's a lot of things I like, and that and the vinyl siding on the outside. I'm not a big vinyl siding fan from a resale perspective, which that kind of stinks. I really wish it wasn't. But if we wanted to reside the house, you could. It just doesn't make sense for my purposes. Personally, I think this is probably a little bit more than we can tackle at the moment, because we're just getting into doing rentals and trying to do updates on properties and things like that. But I think it's a really, really, really good option. If it was cheaper, I think I would definitely try to talk somebody into it and try to talk my spouse into it, because the condition is really good. There are a lot of good things going for it, but it is only a 3-bedroom house. I'd like to have another bedroom. I'd like to have a 3rd bedroom on the floor, and that's a 3-bedroom with the basement, the non-conforming. So I'd really like to have another bedroom on the main floor. But it's not that that's unusual for the area or anything, and they're really good sized bedrooms. So that's where I'm at. Windows are done. The rest of it's cosmetic, really good cared for. Plumbing's a concern. I'm not worried about shoddy work based on the ownership history and what I've seen here, and that's usually what I'm looking for. And the roof has been done, which is nice. That I really like. It doesn't still have like a 3-tab shingle roof or something like that. So anyway, maybe that gives you an idea of just some of the things that that I look for when I'm going through a property. If I'm trying to, or with an investor, maybe that not a seasoned investor that hasn't done many of these before, the things that I'm going to try to point out. Obviously, I would still recommend having an inspector do it until you get to the point where you're comfortable enough doing those things yourself and checking those out and knowing what risks you're going to run into. But I mean, hopefully that gives you an idea on, you know, resale versus non-resale, typical expenses. I just think this is listed too high for it to make sense. I think someone's gonna flip it and do a high-end flip knowing the area, and they can probably do pretty well with it. So anyway, hopefully that helps a little bit. If you're liking my channel, please feel free, or even if this video was helpful, just go ahead and hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. I know it's kind of niche and it's really long, but being an engineer and looking at properties, that's what I think of. So thanks so much for the time. And if you're looking to buy or sell here in Denver, give me a shout. I'd be happy to help. It's what I do every day, and I'm kind of obsessed with my job. So y'all have a good one.